Hello, chasers of health. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I'm truly excited that you've chosen to invest this time in your health and well-being. I feel especially honored to be speaking to a group of like-minded individuals, my tribe, people who are willing to think outside the box, challenge the status quo, and explore new ways to optimize health. Our topic today might at first seem daunting. Behind the veil are hidden toxins damaging your health. While this subject can be unsettling, my approach will be practical, encouraging, and action oriented. By the end of this presentation, my goal is not only to inform you, but to empower you with knowledge, real strategies, and a renewed vision for your personal health journey. Because the truth is, some of the biggest threats to our health aren't the ones we can see. They're the ones hiding in plain sight. So let's start with the biblical foundation. Matthew 9:35 through 38 tells us that Jesus went throughout the cities and villages, teaching, proclaiming the good news, and healing every disease and affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest field. We're familiar with this passage, right? It shows us Jesus' deep compassion and his recognition that people need guidance, healing, and truth. Just as he called for more laborers in his day, we are called to step into that role now in our families, in our communities, and yes, in protecting health. Today, as we pull back the veil on hidden toxins, think of yourself as one of those laborers, bringing light, knowledge, and hope into places where people feel helpless. However, we face a significant challenge. If we, the laborers, are ourselves infirmed, sick, and ailing, how can we effectively do the work God has placed in our hands? How can we fight this war, both the visible and invisible battles, if our own bodies are under siege? And if we're not well enough to stand in the fight, then who will be victorious? Friends, we have to ask ourselves, are we really winning this battle? Or are we quietly losing ground? That's why today's conversation is so important, because awareness is the first step to reclaiming our strength. You have to excuse me, I am a preacher's kid, so I love to reference the word. Remember this one? Ephesians 6 and 12. The King James Version says it like this: for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The New Living Translation says it this way: we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world. I love this because it reminds us some battles are visible, but the most dangerous ones are often unseen. In the spiritual realm, we're fighting invisible forces. And in the physical realm, we're also fighting invisible enemies, toxins, chemicals, pollutants, things we can't always see, but that are waging war on our health. So let me formally introduce myself to those who do not know me. My name is Dr. Chandra Higginbotham. I'm an OBGYN with over 3 decades of experience in traditional Western medicine and more than 18 years in functional and integrative medicine. Throughout my career, I've been dedicated to understanding health from a truly holistic perspective, integrating genomics, biochemistry, and physiology to help optimize outcomes for my patients. Today, I'm here with you virtually, not only as a physician, but as a change agent. I want to pull back the veil and share a truth many have never been told. Hidden toxins are a major, yet often overlooked factor damaging our health. My goal is to shed light on these unseen influences and equip you with knowledge and tools you can begin using right away to make lasting, positive changes in your health and well-being. Just as we remain alert to the spiritual battles we face, we must also be aware of the silent physical threats, environmental toxins that can quietly erode our health without us even realizing it. So let's talk about the problem. In May of 2024, The Lancet published a major analysis from the Global Burden of Disease study, reviewing data from 204 countries over more than 3 decades. They looked at 88 different risk factors and their impact on health. What they found is sobering. The leading contributors to disease and death now include air pollution, high blood pressure, smoking, high blood sugar, low birth weight, obesity. Now, these aren't random. Many are directly tied to environmental and lifestyle factors, including hidden toxins. And here's the bigger issue. These risks don't just affect individuals. They ripple through families, communities, and even generations. If we don't address them at their root, we're just treating symptoms instead of solving the cause. Here's the reality we're facing. Right now, pollution is linked to 1 in 6 deaths worldwide. In the United States, 60% of adults live with at least one chronic disease, and 70% of adults are overweight or obese, numbers that keep climbing. These aren't just statistics. They represent friends, families, co-workers, people we love. And what's alarming is that much of this is driven by preventable factors, including the hidden toxins we'll be uncovering today. If we ignore causes, these numbers will only get worse. But if we act, we can turn the tide. As of 2024, the United States crossed a sobering milestone. More than 2 million new cancer cases in a single year. Every year, about 805,000 people in this country have a heart attack. That's 1 person every 33 seconds. And approximately 795,000 people experience a stroke annually, meaning every 40 seconds, another life is changed forever. These aren't just cold statistics. They're the stories of our neighbors, our friends, and our families. And they underscore one undeniable truth. If we're going to turn the tide on chronic disease, we can't wait until people are sick. We must take a comprehensive, proactive approach to protecting health before crisis strikes. In Matthew 9:37, Jesus says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." Today, that harvest is the overwhelming number of people living with chronic disease. And the laborers, they include those trying to help, but also those who are themselves struggling under the weight of illness. If we, the laborers, are sick, tired, or weighed down by our own health challenges, how can we effectively care for others or fulfill the mission God's placed in our hands? So let me ask you, how many of you either personally face ongoing health challenges or know someone who does? Then you already know why this conversation matters if the answer was yes. Today, as we pull back the veil on the hidden toxins impacting our health, we recognize the heavy burden these laborers carry. By identifying and addressing these unseen threats, we can equip and empower people to take control of their health, and in doing so, reduce the incidence of chronic disease. Together, we can transform this overwhelming harvest into a future filled with greater health, vitality, and hope for all. Now, let's get real for a moment. Many of us live with nagging symptoms that we've learned to push through because life is busy and we don't have time to slow down. The symptoms are like warning lights on your dashboard. They're signals your body is sending that something needs attention. Do any of these sound familiar? Constant fatigue, sugar cravings, poor sleep, slow metabolism or stubborn weight gain, skin issues or early signs of aging, recurring yeast infections, anxiety, low mood, joint pain, bloating or digestive discomfort, brain fog, memory lapses, dark circles under your eyes, frequent urination, hair loss. Individually, they might not seem to be alarming, but together they can paint a bigger picture about your overall health. And often, hidden toxins are quietly in the background driving some of these issues. Now, let's think about this. Why are so many of us and the people we love facing these health challenges? Our genetics haven't changed much in just a few decades. So what has? Research points to one powerful answer: our environment. The world we live in now is filled with exposures our grandparents never faced, and it's taking a toll on our health. Let's break down some of the major changes in our environment that are fueling this health crisis. First, environmental toxins and pollutants. Air pollution, not just an outside issue. Indoor air can also carry toxins from cleaning products, building materials, even our furniture. Long long-term exposure is linked to cardiovascular as well as respiratory diseases. Water contaminants, heavy metals like lead and mercury, plus industrial chemicals can damage the nervous system and other organs. Next, diet and food quality. Processed foods, high in sugar, unhealthy fats, and additives that drive inflammation, obesity, and diabetes. Pesticides and herbicides, chemicals like glyphosate are tied to cancer risk and hormone disruption. Yet they're found in much of our food supply. These changes didn't happen overnight, but they've accumulated, and our bodies are feeling the effects. Alongside environmental toxins, lifestyle changes have had a huge impact on our health. Sedentary lifestyle. We spend more time sitting than ever before, often in front of screens, with less daily movement and exercise. Chronic stress. When stress is unmanaged, it doesn't just affect our mood, it raises inflammation, disrupts hormones, and worsens physical health problems. Trauma and toxic emotions. These are often overlooked, yet they can leave deep physiological imprints that affect our immune, endocrine, and nervous systems. The takeaway? Our modern way of living has shifted dramatically in just a few generations, and our bodies are struggling to keep up. Our environment is filled with toxins and toxicants that quietly chip away at our health. In America today, over 83,000 chemicals are in use, and fewer than 1% have been studied for safety. These hidden adversaries include pollutants in the air we breathe, from traffic emissions to industrial byproducts, chemicals in the products we use every day, from personal care items to cleaning agents and plastics, contaminants in the food we eat, from pesticide residues to additives and packaging chemicals. Individually, these exposures may seem small, but together, they create a constant, low-level assault on our bodies, often without us even realizing it. Before we go further, let's make sure we're speaking the same language. Toxins are harmful substances that come from living organisms like bacteria, plants, or animals. Toxicants are man-made or synthetic chemicals like pesticides, industrial pollutants, and plastics that can harm our health. Both can disrupt how our bodies function. But toxicants are often the ones we have the most control over avoiding. For the purpose of today's conversation, I will use the word toxins to signify both. So let's pause for a quick check-in. How many of you already knew that environmental toxins could have a direct impact on your health? If you did, you're ahead of the curve. If not, that's okay. You're in the right place. Either way, we've only scratched the surface. There's more to uncover, and the deeper we go, the more you'll see how these hidden factors could be affecting you or the loved ones. So let's dive further. All right, we're about to get into some dense, critical information. Think of it like trying to catch every lyric in a fast rap verse. You might want to jot some of this down. Bisphenol A. Where is it found? Plastics, food and drink containers, those thermal receipt papers that we receive. Guess what? It's an endocrine disruptor. It mimics estrogen, which means it acts like estrogen. which can interfere with hormones and increase risk for reproductive disorders, certain cancers, diabetes, and obesity. Phthalates, common in shampoos, lotions, plastic packaging, and even medical devices. Also, these are endocrine disruptors. They're linked to hormonal imbalances, reproductive problems, developmental issues in kids, and higher asthma and allergy risk. Lead, found in oil paint, contaminated water from lead pipes, certain cosmetics, and imported goods. In children, it can cause brain damage, learning problems, and reduce IQ. In adults, it contributes to heart disease and kidney damage. Remember Flint, Michigan? That crisis revealed just how dangerous heavy metal exposure can be. Mercury, present in large fish like tuna, swordfish, dinner fillings, and some industrial emissions. It's toxic to the nervous system, causing cognitive issues, motor problems, and developmental delays in children. And in adults, it can harm the heart and weaken the immune system. Pesticides used in farming and found in both conventional and, to some degree, organic produce, as well as in household pest control. Chronic exposure is tied to cancers, hormone disruption, nerve disorders, and reproductive harm. Now, these are just a few of the invisible players in our environment that are silently influencing our health. And awareness is the first step to defense. I mentioned earlier that many of these toxins are endocrine disruptors. Are you familiar with that term? The endocrine system is a network of glands and organs like the thyroid, the adrenals, pituitary, pancreas, ovaries, and testes. They produce and release hormones. These hormones act as chemical messengers, regulating growth, metabolism, mood, reproduction, and much more. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that can mimic your hormones. They block them or throw off your normal hormone balance. This interference can lead to reproductive issues, developmental delay, thyroid problems, metabolic disorders, and even certain cancers. The tricky part, they're everywhere. In plastics, pesticides, personal care products, and industrial chemicals. Avoiding them requires both awareness and intentional choices in our daily lives. All right, a quick check-in before we move on. Can you guys name a pesticide that's also an endocrine disruptor and that 93% of us are exposed to? Have you been keeping up with me? All right, here's the answer. Yes, glyphosate. Glyphosate was introduced in the 1970s and quickly became a cornerstone of modern agriculture. By 2016, it had earned the title of the most commercially successful and widely used herbicide in history. Now, you probably know it by the name brand Roundup. Globally, glyphosate use has surged over the years, especially with the adoption of genetically engineered herbicide-tolerant crops. By 2014, an estimated 1.8 billion pounds were applied worldwide each year, more than a 12-fold increase since 1995. Between 1974 and 2014, annual agricultural use skyrocketed from 0.8 million pounds to 250 million pounds. These numbers just show how extensive glyphosate use has become, both globally and here at home, making it critical that we understand its impact on human health and the environment. Now, just to be clear, glyphosate is just one of the multitude of ingredients in the product that we call Roundup. So why be concerned about glyphosate? Well, it's a potential carcinogen. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen, linking it to an increased risk of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Research also suggests glyphosate may stimulate breast cancer growth via estrogen receptors. Now, it's also an endocrine disruptor. Studies indicate glyphosate can disrupt hormone function, potentially leading to reproductive issues and developmental problems. What are some of our health concerns? Exposure has been associated with liver and renal damage, as well as negative effects on gut bacteria and overall microbiome health. I want to make this just a little bit personal. I've begun to share the science, but let me show you how real this is, even for someone like me who's been focused on health for years. In 2003, I found myself in a challenging situation. I was in full-on survival mode. I was sick, I was exhausted, and I was overweight. Wait a minute, I was morbidly obese. Every aspect of my life was affected, my health, my energy, even my medical practice. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Something had to change. So I became a student again, not of medicine in the academic sense, but of health and wellness. I started applying what I learned to my life, my family's life, and my practice. It wasn't overnight. It was slow, steady, deliberate progress. Proof that slow and steady truly wins the race. So what are some of the steps that I took and continue to embrace? 1, dietary changes. I switched to an organic diet to minimize pesticide residues in my food. I stopped drinking sodas and drinks with high fructose corn syrup, which is a source of heavy metals as well. I stopped eating fast food. I began to eat to live and stop living to eat. I started using high quality water. I stopped drinking water from plastic bottles. I recently installed a whole house filter to remove a myriad of contaminants. I replaced personal care products with those that are free of synthetic chemicals and pesticides. I stopped wearing perfume. I focused on enhancing my body's natural detoxification pathways through a combination of nutrition, supplements, and lifestyle changes. This is just a short list of the changes I began to embrace. And as I made these adjustments, I began to look better. I began to feel better, think more clearly, and have more energy. I wasn't just improving my physical health. I was stepping into my divine purpose by becoming healthy, just as God intended. I was on my way, feeling confident about the changes I'd made. Then, at an environmental health conference, I noticed they were offering a chemical toxicant testing. On a whim, I decided to check my glyphosate levels. When the results came back in December of 2022, they were nothing short of eye-opening and honestly a little alarming. I was full of it, literally. That wake-up call hit hard. If I, a physician committed to clean living, had high glyphosate levels, so could almost anyone. I took action. Despite eating organic, avoiding toxins, and cleaning up my exposome, my glyphosate levels were still extremely high. Tracing the source led me to my office yard where Roundup was being used. I immediately stopped its use, switched to natural weed control using vinegar and salt, and intensified my detoxification regimen. By February of 2024, the retest, the results were dramatically better. Proof that you can lower your exposure and body burden. It was a powerful reminder that even when you think you're doing everything right, hidden exposures can still find their way into your body. This experience reminded me vigilance matters. I was becoming the CEO of my health. This transformation empowered me to fully embrace my role as a change agent, someone committed to guiding others toward optimal health. Through my own journey, I discovered that change is not just possible, it's contagious. When we take ownership of our health, we inspire those around us to do the same. And that's exactly what I've set out to do. Lead by example. Equip others with the tools they need and walk alongside them as they step into their healthiest, most vibrant lives. Now, as we wrap up this discussion, my goal was to plant a seed about the underlying factors contributing to our health challenges, some of the underlying factors. It's important to recognize that it's not your fault that you are sick and tired. It's not a lack of willpower that's preventing you from losing weight. It's not solely your genetics that is causing hypertension, diabetes, or cancer. We need to look behind the veil to uncover potential contributing factors that might be impacting our health. These factors extend beyond the obvious and include the hidden toxins in our environment, such as glyphosate and other endocrine disruptors, which can have profound effects on our bodies. The conversation isn't just about our longevity, but the quality of our longevity. It's about ensuring that we live life more abundantly. I want each of you to feel empowered to become the CEO of your health. Take control, stay informed, make decisions that truly support your well-being. Understand the environmental influences around you and take proactive steps to reduce your risks. Advocate for cleaner, healthier communities. Together, we can make informed choices and demand safer alternatives. By staying vigilant and proactive, we can protect not only our health, but also the health of future generations. All right, we've begun to pull back the veil, and now it's time to act. In honor of my recent integrative medicine recertification, I'm inviting you to join me for a 28-day detox and gut health reset, a journey like never before. Choose your starting point, core, advanced, or premium, designed to meet you exactly where you are. Every option includes a 35-page e-guide, weekly check-ins, and access to our private Detox Warriors community via Facebook, where you'll receive real support, tips, and encouragement every step of the way. Here's the best part. The company has offered a special on this regimen. The special has been extended until the end of August. This is your chance to clean up your diet, reduce your toxic load, and give your body the fresh start it deserves. Your health is your business. Starting today, you are the CEO of your health success story. So let's do this together. My office is 713-571-2273, or you may email me at drhiggie@sbcglobal.net. The case isn't closed yet. We've only scratched the surface. Stay tuned for part 2 of the Behind the Veil Masterclass, where we'll dig deeper, uncover more hidden culprits, and equip you with powerful tools to protect your health. Remember, you are the CEO of your health, and every good CEO keeps investigating, learning, and taking action. The investigation continues. Let's continue this journey together, striving for a healthier, more informed future. To your health, I love you all, and thank you